Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc from the Alley Cat Workshop. Welcome you back. I have a public service announcement to make. I am fed up. All right, so what am I fed up about? I need to bring you to this corner of the shop where my new lathe now sits. I used to have a little workstation here with a bunch of drawers, and I didn't like the drawers per se, but I did hold a lot of my ad hoc tools. Where are they? Well, that's the problem. Let me show you where they are right now. So if I'm standing a little further away on the other side of the shop, you'll see where my lathe is. And then you see the stairs that go up to the attic. And right next to that are these two plastic containers. And if I open one of the lid, you'll understand what the problem is all about. All my ad hoc tools are now sitting in these two bins. If I need something, specifically anything, I have to go digging in there, and more often than not, it's at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. I'm wasting time. I'm actually cutting myself in some cases on some of the sharper tools that are sitting in that bin. It's a mess, so I need to do something about it. I've been putting it off far too long. So here's my workbench. I've been working on this for last couple of years, been making some improvements. The first improvement I made was changing the top, putting something that was a lot more robust. I added as well this roll of paper that I can use whenever I'm doing glue up so that it doesn't stick to the top of the bench. Another big improvement that I made was adding two vices, one on the side here and another one on the far end. So this is what I consider to be the last improvement, will be to add a set of drawers in this cavity right here. It's going to extend from the edge of the vise, so right about here, and go to the far end. And I'm going to design something. It couldn't be simpler. It's just I've got some hardwood runners on the side. I've built, one of the sides here, so you'll see what that looks like. But I'm going to have four drawers, about 50 some odd inches in length, about 3.5, 4 inches in height. And I should be able to put most of my tools in there. And if any overflow is going to go in some bins that I'm going to hide, like the stuff that I really don't use very often, I'm going to go hide that somewhere else in the shop. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a similar side panel, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Let's get started. Another great thing about a project like this is it gives me an opportunity to use a bunch of scraps that have been accumulating for the longest time. Now I've got a bunch of white oak that I haven't been using for the last year and a half. It's time to make good use of it. So first things first, I'm going to build the frame, and I'm going to use 1.5 inch wide stock of white oak to build that frame. Let's get cutting. So the next step in this process is just to build a very simple frame. So what I've done is I've laid out my marks on my 4 pieces. So I've got a check mark here and here, because those are 2 surfaces that I want to mate and have flush. Same here with the bottom, so check mark here and a check mark here, and an X here and an X here, because that's where I'm going to be drilling my dowel holes. And if you are familiar with my channel, then you know that I'm about to use one of my favorite tools, this guy right here, my Dowel Max. This is a tool that offers simplicity, strength, and is just so precise. It's fantastic. So nice and flush on this end, nice and flush on the other face. 2 dowels should do the trick. So for these pieces, I need to go vertical, because the X is on this face. Secure it in place. So I've got my check mark here and a check mark here, and the X is here. So let's go ahead and place our Dowelmax properly. Now in this case, I can only use one of the securing bolts at the back. Shouldn't be an issue. Okay, that looks good. Keep going around. That's the next thing to do. I have got all my dowel holes ready. I've done a dry fit, and the fit is pristine, as usual. What do we expect? Less than perfection from the folks at Dowelmax. Now, before I do the final assembly, I need to do one more thing. My two rails, I'm going to drill some holes for screws, because that's how I'm going to secure this partition or wall to the workbench. So let me go to the drill press and drill those 4 holes, 2 in each rail, and then we'll be able to do the assembly. Follow me. I'm all set. Time for some assembly. Okay, so while that is cooking, I'm going to start working on the drawers. And I have something in mind. If you recall, at the beginning of the video, I said it was a great way to use scrap wood. I've got scrap wood, not enough to do the 4 drawers. I do have something special. Come take a look. So 3 years ago, a guy sold me a bunch of white pine planks that have been air drying since then. And underneath, that happened 2 years ago, we had a white pine as well that we cut down and that I turned into boards. I've got all this white pine, and the ones on the top, like I said, they've been air drying for 3 years, so they're good to go. So my intent is to start using some of this white pine to build my drawers. And to do that, I'm going to have to start milling. Now let me show you what the milled product looks like. It's rather spectacular. So last week I took one of these boards and milled them into 3/4 inch thickness, 6 inches wide. And this is what I come up with. So I've got these 4 boards. My intent is to use these 4 boards for the drawer fronts when I get there. I really like the result. There's a lot of character. There's some wormholes in certain spots. Knots. This knot here is actually really quite special. It's got lots of character going for it. One thing that I wish you could do is be in my shop and just smell what this wood smells like. White pine is a soft wood, but the smell is intoxicating, to say the least. So off camera, what I'm going to do is take 3 of the boards that you saw, mill them as well, and I'll use that to make my drawers. All right, see you in a bit. But welcome back to the Alley Cat Workshop, another day, and I intend to put a big dent in this project. So the frame for the side is now cured. I'm just going to remove it from the clamps, get rid of all this, and then I'll move the camera so that I can show you how I'm going to do the install. So welcome to the underbelly of my workbench. What I did is I drew a line, and don't remember the distance. Hold on a sec. I drew a line at exactly 36 inches from the other side of the workbench. And that's my straight line that I'm going to be hooking the base from. And I'll do the same measurement on the top and adjust it as necessary. All right. So I'm taking my frame. There are pre-drilled holes on both the top and the bottom to be able to secure this frame to the workbench. All right, let's see how we've done. And it doesn't fit. Oh no, what will I do? So this is the ideal time to take a plane and just nibble away at some of the excess meat of this frame, and you'll see I'll be able to make it fit really nicely in short order. So give me a few minutes while I get this guy done, and then we'll secure it to the bench. All right, so I think we're good to go. I've got a significant amount of shavings on the top of the workbench. I have lined up the frame on the line, and so I'm ready to screw it on the bottom. I'm going to start with the bottom, then level things off with the top, and then screw the top. So get comfy and let's get going here. Ooh. Not good. Not good at all. All right, so ready for attempt number 2. I drilled a brand new hole. There's a screw that's stuck in the wood that I will never be able to get out. Made the holes a little bit larger as well. Hopefully this helps the screws. All right, let's give it a shot. Well, that was a lot better. All right. This part's done. So you remember at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that this is an ideal project to use a whole bunch of scraps or things that are just lying around. Here's a perfect example. I have a panel which is 20 inches high by 19 and 9/16 long. That's the measurement for this panel. But I don't have a panel available unless I break down a big panel that I would like to keep for a more substantial project eventually. So what I did, put it into 2 pieces. It does the trick. It does the job. So nobody's ever going to see this. This is a shop project. This is the ideal situation for such an application. So all right, let's just put a bit of glue on the edges. All right, final step for the sides. Well, final step for now at least. I need to install these runners. So this is white oak. So we're talking about some hardwood. And I'm going to start off by putting one runner at the very bottom. I've got 2 screws to install. Only screws, no glue here. And of course it's giving me a hard time. Let me do the other side at least, and we'll get the nuclear option out. And I need to get the nuclear option out now. All right, so I'm back with the nuclear option. All it is a 90-degree driver. There you go. It's just because the head of the drill is getting in the way. But with something like this, absolutely no problem. And there we go. Runner number 1 is installed. Now for runners 2 and above, I'm going to go back. I don't need this anymore, so I'll go back to the regular screw. All I did is I have this piece of plywood, and it is measuring. Let me just measure it for you. It is exactly 4 1/4 inches. And what I'm just using this as is just a spacer. So I put my next runner up on this, and I'm able to screw it down without taking any complicated measurement. There we go. I just keep going up the chain like that. 4 runners in total. Well, welcome back. Last night, before leaving the shop, I took out my Lee Super 12 dovetailing jig, and I worked on just running a test to do half-blind dovetails. One test, I think I did pretty darn good. This is a really nice fit. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty tight. And just a little bit of sanding to bring everything together, and life will be really good. So after this test, I'm ready to go and route the dovetails for my first drawer. So I have my drawer front, and I have one side here clamped into the jig, and the other side is over here. So let me go ahead and do my tails first on both ends, and then I'll do the pins on the on this guy right here. One thing to mention is I'm not going to do dovetails on the back, just on the front. And well, anyways, let me suit up and get this going. So I just did a dry fit, fair bit of manipulation to make sure everything fit. What I found out is if I put the drawer on its side like this, then I can fit everything properly together. So this is what it kind of looks like. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue up the dovetail. I'm going to glue up the side. The panel will be free, and I will just put some brads at the back to connect it, but everything looks good. All right, so let me do that for today, and that'll be it for my day. And in the next couple of days, I'll do the other drawers. It's a fair bit of work, but I think it's worth it. It's looking pretty good. Well, it's high time we put this project to bed. So my 4 drawers are assembled. They're in their place. I've got my beautiful dovetail is nice and sanded, so everything is nice and good to go. So what I've done here is I've installed, with some clamps, the first false front, or first front rather, of my bottom drawer. What I did is I gave myself a couple of 3" spacers, make sure that it's flush with the top on this side and on this side. And I also have another one for the side here. And that gives me an idea that my alignment is pretty much good. I've got it clamped up, pull it out, and I'm going to put 4 screws in here to secure it. Might as well make sure that it doesn't go through here. That would be sad. All right, so the front for the bottom drawer is now installed. The other 3 drawers are going to be handled slightly differently. All right, for drawer number 2, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to line up the top of the drawer with the middle of the stretcher here on the side. So what I've done, I've pushed the drawer out of the way, and I put a 1/8 inch spacer on the top of the bottom drawer and took a measurement off of there. And it gives me about 5 inches. And I did the same thing on the other side just to make sure that I was squarish. Speaking of square, the floor is not level, so that means the bench is not level, which means the drawers are not level. So I'm not worried about level, I'm worried about things fitting nicely or nicely enough so that they work. All right, so my boards right now, like this guy here at the bottom, is 6 inches high. I didn't need to touch it so that it looks fine. But for the front, for the next drawer, I need to cut it to 5 inches in width. Let me do that first, and then we'll get going. All right, so I got my front cut. I also cut a couple more spacers, 1/8 of an inch. So let me just set them up on the top of the first drawer. Let's place this guy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it on the sides with the drawer that's on the bottom. I get a kind of symmetric look. That looks good. Clamp it in place. And go ahead and screw the front to the drawer. Drawer number 3 is going to be the exact same process. Drawer number 4, I might have to do a few adjustments. All right, time to put the final face to the final drawer. There's a bit of a problem here, is that there's no room to put the clamps. So I'm going to take a bit of a risk here. I'm going to pull out all of the drawers a little bit. All right. And they're kind of hanging out. This is going to be interesting. All right, so I'm going to put one spacer between this guy. One spacer here. And let's pull this guy out. I have enough room for the clamps. I'm going to have to pull it out, pull this contraption out a little bit more. And in fact, let me put my spacers on the right-hand side to begin with. And let's put at least clamp number 1 on the right-hand side. All right. Put the spacers on the left-hand side now. Oops. Too quick here. All right, now that everything is clamped, I can put the front on and we will be good to go. Well, that's what it looks like. And every drawer that I open looks absolutely so big. I'm going to be able to put a ton of stuff in here right where I need it, right where I work. I should have done this a long time ago. This workbench started off from a plan from, geez, I don't even remember. But the base has stayed the same. I've expanded it a little bit. If you recall, a couple of years ago, I did the top. I really like how sturdy it is. I added 2 vices, one on the face and one on the side over here. I love these vices, and I adapted the top so that I could put in some bench dogs. And finally, I have drawers where I can put all my extra hand tools and keep them in a space that is really close by. I'm going to add some handles here so that I can pull them out easily. It's a little job that shouldn't take too long, but overall, these drawers are done. The other thing I will do, by the way, is put a couple of coats of varnish just to protect them, because there's going to be a lot of potential dust and banging, so I want to protect them a little bit. And the other thing I'll do eventually is add a back to all this, a 1/4-inch plywood, just so that the dust, we can limit that, the entry of dust into the area. Really happy with this. Hopefully this was useful for you. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so, I'd appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Hopefully we'll do something a little bit, well, maybe we'll do some turning. All right, take care, folks. Bye-bye.